Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be replacing the rear lower controller mounts on my dad's 64 442 Cutlass. If you are watching this video, most likely your lower control arms don't fit, or you're putting an aftermarket suspension kit on there and it doesn't fit, or you have looked at your lower controller mounts and they are cracked or it's pulled away from the frame. There's a really easy way to do this. You just get Renew Productions. I'll put a link in the description and it goes really smoothly. These mounts were the same for a lot of the Chevys from 64 up. And if you have any issues with your control arms, the bushings going bad, or wearing the sleeve, or it is cracked, like you can see on this one, and it's also separated from the frame, that could just be from wear and tear over the years, people bouncing the car off parking blocks or having an accident. You can see that this is split in a few spots and it really wasn't that good of a design from the factory, but the new reproductions, they're actually pretty good. So there's a really simple way to put these on and I'm gonna show that to you now. The first thing you're gonna notice about the reproductions is they still retain the D in the sheet metal. So all you have to do is mark this onto the frame. See that same D on your original rear lower control arm mounts. You're going to mark that with a Sharpie so you have some way, or a very good way, to line the new one up, because you're going to have to cut this old one off. So after you mark that and get it cut off, the next thing you're going to do, I'm using a whole QA1 suspension kit on this car. But the best way to line everything up, because the front mount is part of the subframe or part of the frame, and it's boxed in. So this mount is most likely never gonna have any issues. This one looks like it's kind of pulled away, so I'll hammer that one, but the back looks like it's pretty much flush. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to bolt this into the lower control arm, and then I'm going to bolt the lower control arm into the chassis or the frame, and then I can get everything lined up, and you'll have those marks on the frame to then line this mount up. Another thing I noticed on this car, on the factory lower control arms, is that it was wearing through the rear bushing and the metal sleeve on that bushing. So I'm not 100% sure when they put these things together at the factory if it was 100% true. So I would just recommend using the marks on the D as more of a guide. I'm in here with a Sharpie and you're just going to draw your line, so you have some sort, and right here as well, so you have some sort of guide when you put the new one back on.
Yeah.
Control arm is now on, and this mount is untouched. The bolt is through the lower control arm, and on the back I have the new mount with the bolt through the lower control arm. Obviously it's not welded on or pressed up, but I wanted to show you that you can see, you might be able to see, the original mark is exactly lined up, and I haven't done anything to this. So what I would recommend is to use the mark as a guide, but how these control arms bolt in, once I tighten this down, this is going to be set. I'm going to tighten this down as well, and then I'm going to tack everything in place. I'll pull the lower control arm after it's tacked in place so I don't burn the polyurethane bushing out. So I would just get everything lined up. I also would recommend using a few shims or washers on each side so you get this centered. So it's not, because it still is unsprung, because when you tighten this down and torque it, it's going to crush it to the bushing, and that's how all of them work. That's why you have to, and I would also recommend when you're going to put a new lower control arm in, get the same size bolt as an all thread, 2 nuts and 4 washers, and then you can spread this open so then this lower control arm will slip back in, because after it's torqued, it pretty much crushes onto the bushing. Holy shit. Holy shit. Holy shit. Just a little word of caution. I guess if you don't use your weld through primer for a really long time, it turns into a bomb. So I just threw it outside and it exploded. It almost exploded in here. Yeah, be very careful. I was probably like 13 seconds away from like blowing my hand off. I'm not exactly sure what was going on there, but whew, that was very sketchy. Have no clue why it did that. All right, we're gonna try this again with a different can of weld through primer. This stuff's black instead of copper, so. Oh, it's silver instead of copper. Oh. Oh, so much nicer. Oh, it fits. The lower controller mounts are now welded onto the frame with the Weaver TIG welder. I sprayed them with some semi-gloss black. Oh man, this goes in so much easier. That was so much easier. Now that's not all smashed. I probably shouldn't say anything until I put the back bolt in. Perfect. It's like brand new. Those lower control arm mounts being all messed up just over the year and age, they were really thin from the factory. So replacing those, it just took a little bit more time, but most people probably aren't going to have to replace them. Just take a look at them, make sure that yours aren't messed up. You could even pull one of the lower control arms out. If there's any wear on the bushing or you see any of that weird wear on the bracket, I would most likely replace it because you're gonna have a really hard time getting the QA1 lower control arms in there just because they're not stamped steel and you can't just hammer them in there. Alignment has been set. It's a week and a half out, so I'm gonna end the video here. The alignment in driving the car is going to be a separate video and showing my dad the car, and I cannot wait. So if you like these videos, make sure to click that subscribe button, throw a thumbs up, throw a comment below. As always, see you guys next time.